Wait.
Yep, she did.
I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to tonight's meeting. This is the third meeting of the year of the City Board of Directors here on Tuesday evening, February 21st, and we're almost through the month of February. We'll begin with the invocation by Pastor Phil Kramer, and I'll lead the pledge. All rise.
Let us pray. Our God and our Creator, we thank you so much, God, for your mercies that are new every morning. And this morning, they sustained us throughout this day, this beautiful day. And now I pray, God, that your good hand would be upon our mayor and upon all of our city leaders as they gather tonight seeking your wisdom to shape the direction of our city. Bless them, bless their families, and may God bless Hot Springs, Arkansas. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Phyllis Beard.
Present.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Dudley Webb.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McKay.
Here. We'll consider the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda, or items to be moved from the consent agenda to new business? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
We got a motion to approve, seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Consideration and approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of February 7th, 2023. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to
So
approve.
moved, Mayor.
Director Garcia, seconded by
Second.
Director Webb. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have a special guest this evening. Sarah Richardson is the Executive Director of Literacy Council of Garland County. You know, we deal so much with workforce development today in all the community meetings, the Chamber of Commerce, Hot Springs Metro Partnership, the National Park Community College, all are involved with workforce development. And Sarah, is, in her role of Executive Director of Literacy Council, plays a vital role in that as well as is providing literacy to those within our community, and those who are able to read have a brighter future than those who are not. And as they enter the workforce, they're a kind of a hidden population group that we want to have out front. And so I've asked Sarah to come forward and give us a little bit update on the Literacy Council.
Sure. Thank you for a minute this evening. You guys have a lot on your plate, but you have, as a group, supported the Literacy Council as long as I've been around, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you all. The statistics that I have under reliable research are that 20% of Garland County adults are below a third grade reading level, and an even higher rate of adults are at a lower numeracy level. We had served Garland County since 1983. I've only been around since 2020, and in that time we've gone from 19 students the year before me to 146 when we wrapped up 2022. They stay with us varying lengths depending on their goals and their obstacles. So we have adults who meet goals like filling out an application, and that may be all they needed from us. And then we have a gentleman who's been with us 7 years, slowly starting as a complete non-reader. And last week we found out he finished a certification assessment at his workplace that allows him to add an additional third to his income, and he made a 21 out of 21. Having gone from a non-reader to that is pretty impressive, and that's a pretty dedicated tutor to stick with him long enough to get him to that point. So I wanted the opportunity to share with you all the progress we've made, but there still is a lot of work to do, and we're in a lot of expansion even to the rural parts of the county. My phone's listening to us. So I just wanted the opportunity to update you all and invite you. We're having a fundraiser event Thursday night. You're welcome to attend. The tickets are on our webpage. It's going to feature local author Biddy Martin, and we're going to share more facts, and a student's going to come share her success story, and to invite you all to get involved, either sign up for our newsletter or our emails, because I like to share what's going on and what improvements we have. And if you have any questions for me, always feel free to ask them now or later. So
The scale that you said he scored 21 out of 21, can you break that down
I
for
didn't
us?
understand a lot about the assessment because it's
Okay.
very mechanical in nature. But what I know is he only had to get an 18 to get the promotion, and he was pretty harassed at work, has been for a long time, for being stupid. They're pretty hard on him, and he really had avoided doing any of these assessments for the first 4 years, and his tutor just kept saying, yeah, do it. And so he passed one a couple years ago, and that was kind of his first, I can do this. And so he went into this one really confident, and when he came out that he'd made a 21 out of 21 is giving him, not only giving him the promotion, but the bragging rights when they want to insult him on the job. So
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story and the work that you do each and every day.
thanks. And I'll leave some of these here if anybody wants them, and
Very
I
good.
appreciate your time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll hear from the city manager, Mr. Bill Burrow, for the State of the City report. Mr. Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Excuse me. As you know, this is a report that, as city manager, I'm required to give the board within 60 days at the end of the fiscal year. So glad to be able to present this to you tonight. Every day we're inundated with heartbreaking headlines of the struggles being faced by communities across our nation and abroad. Mass shootings, record-setting natural disasters, infrastructure failures, price increases, supply chain delays, political divisions, and of course the city of Hot Springs was not immune to some of these challenges and others throughout 2022. A year ago, when we took a look back at 2021, we highlighted the resilience of the Hot Springs community, our resolve to stay the course and see things to the end. We noted that our community has not only survived, but thrived. As we look back at 2022 in similar fashion, I am extremely pleased to report that we have continued on that thriving upward trajectory. Even as the world around us has been shaky and somewhat unstable, our community has held steadfast. Crime trends elsewhere have risen, but ours have declined thanks to the proactive strategies by our Hot Springs Police Department. Furthermore, the relationship between many law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve has been broken, but our police department's decade-long commitment to community policing and transparency has cemented a foundation of trust that was only enhanced in 2022. COVID-19 and the pandemic's health-related implications have been receding, but all municipalities continue to face its ongoing economic-related side effects with higher supply prices, shortages of needed goods, and materials and project bids coming in well over budget. Hot Springs was no different in 2022, but I look forward to outlining the many major projects that were either completed last year or have made steady progress. Economic uncertainty from rising interest rates and the fear of the future recession have also had many on edge. Yet Hot Springs' rare attributes continue to pay off with above average tourism and sales tax receipts in 2022. These are but a few of the reasons that the theme of this 2022 State of the City is Diamond in the Rough. The past year has been rough for many cities, but our diamond of a community has shined thanks to our many important facets, such as our passionate people, our forward-thinking leadership, our creative culture, our beautiful and plentiful resources, and so on. Like diamonds, carbon that undergoes intense heat and pressure to transform into precious crystals, Hot Springs, our city government and community, only seems to have a stronger bond with the challenges we have overcome together over the past several years and throughout 2022. Hot Springs is certainly a diamond in the rough. One of the highlights of 2022 that certainly arose from a situation involving intense pressure was the honoring of two incredibly brave and well-trained Hot Springs police officers, James Moore and Stephen Parrott, with 3 separate Officer of the Year awards. Officer Monroe and Officer Parrott were named the Attorney General's 2022 Arkansas Outstanding Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, Southwest Regional Officer of the Year, and the Arkansas Chief of Police Chief Association Officer of the Year. These well-deserved accolades recognize these officers' selfless actions on the night of May 12, 2022, when they potentially saved countless victims from injury or death by acting without hesitation to stop a shooter after a fight broke out following a high school graduation ceremony. While we applaud the actions taken by Officer Monroe and Officer Parrott, along with the other police and emergency personnel who responded that evening, it goes without saying that everyone would have preferred that public gathering to have passed without incident. Too often last year, violence ripped to the core of communities across the nation. With the publication of the 2022 Hot Springs Police Department Annual Report, we were reassured that the incident in May was an anomaly. The crime reduction strategy implemented by our police department in 2020 has resulted in remarkable decreases in crime for our community. When these strategies were proposed, it was understood that at least 18 to 24 months would be needed to be able to see the full impact in our community. The data in this report included an overall 7% decrease in major crime trends compared to 2021. It shows that reduction strategies have been successful. Violent crime trends are down in 3 of our 4 major reporting categories: aggravated assault, homicide, and robbery. Other notable 3-year improvements include burglary down 30%, homicide down 29%, robbery down 20%, motor vehicle theft down 17%, aggravated assault down 14%, drug and narcotic offenses down 8%, and larceny theft down 5%. Included in the crime reduction strategy is a violent crime task force, reassignment of personnel, state and federal prosecution agreements, intelligence-based techniques, numerous community engagement activities, and increased technology platforms. One such platform has been ShotSpotter. An implementation of the second phase of this technology was completed in 2022. More information on the effectiveness of ShotSpotter in allowing our officers the ability to respond to exact location of incidents in a safe manner to capture suspects, assist victims, and collect evidence is available on page 31 in the additional projects and accomplishments section of this report. Police officers are under constant threat of being assaulted, yet because each staff member at the Hot Springs Police Department receives the highest standard of training, the use of force statistic of 0.11, or 1 out of every 866 calls for service for 2022, shows the amazing amount of restraint held by our officers. Not only has our police department become a model by which others follow in terms of training, our peer recovery support unit has also risen as a best practice program. Established in 2021, our program includes an officer tasked to investigate life-threatening uses of opioid-based drugs and a civilian peer recovery support specialist. Among his many achievements already in the PRSS role, Sean Willits has assisted more than 100 homeless drug users off the streets of Hot Springs and into drug treatment facilities. In 2022, our opioid investigator completed 47 overdose investigations and the pair connected with 234 citizens seeking information about recovery or placement for treatment. The sustainability of this successful program has been secured for another 2 years as the Hot Springs Police Department became the first agency in Arkansas to receive funding from the opioid settlement. The grant from the Arkansas Opioid Recovery Fund is in excess of $400,000, with an additional $25,000 per year for Narcan supply and training. Many of our police department's recent achievements are due in large part to the leadership of Chief Chris Chapman. So it was no surprise his knowledge and expertise were summoned by the Governor of Arkansas to serve as the director of the Arkansas Commission on Law Enforcement Standards and Training. We send our sincere appreciation to Chief Chapman for continuing our department's core philosophy of community policing and providing such a solid and strategic foundation of transparency and crime reduction best practices on which the department can continue to move forward. Another bittersweet goodbye for the City of Hot Springs was to Director Elaine Jones. On December 20th, 2022, she attended and moved to adjourn her final board meeting, concluding an accomplished 24 years of service to her District 2. Director Jones led the city in pursuing community development block grant funding, and the city becoming an entitlement grantee for the CDBG program. It seems only fitting that Phase 1 of the Malvern Avenue Gateway Corridor project, made possible with CDBG funding, was completed in 2022. The Malvern Avenue Gateway Corridor not only has cultural and historical significance, but is critically important for the economic well-being of the neighborhoods and businesses near downtown. Completion of Phase 1 marks a turning point for this area. Director Jones will also be forever tied to another major infrastructure project that was a top priority for 2022, the Lake Ouachita Water Supply Project. In what will be the city's largest infrastructure project to date, and what has been more than 13 years in the making, this water supply initiative is comprised of 4 construction phases: the intake structure, the new 15 million gallons a day water plant, the water transmission, the raw water transmission, and the finished water main. All of these phases show consistent progress throughout 2022, despite the aforementioned challenges now facing all major construction projects. One of the most anticipated milestones was the mobilization of the custom-built tunnel machine on its 2,400-foot journey through Blakely Mountain toward the fresh water of Lake Ouachita on the other side. At the launching ceremony on August 23rd, this spectacular machine was christened Miss Elaine, who was jokingly said to have never been considered a bore. In all seriousness, Director Jones has been a trailblazer in our community and certainly one of the diamond facets that make Hot Springs such a special place. As the Miss Elaine boring machine has traversed its own challenges and been recalibrated to continue its journey, we look forward to complete the tunneling in July or August of 2023. The board approved an additional bond in the amount of $49 million on November the 15th for construction funds needed to complete the project. I want to thank the board of directors and so many throughout our community for the continued support in pushing forward on this water supply project, which is imperative to be completed now, as it was in 2010 and as it will be for the growth and future of our community. The city was humbled to be recognized for the 3rd straight year with 2 Arkansas Business Trendsetter City Trendsetter Awards. Hot Springs projects that earned statewide honors for 2022 were the Water Supply Project in the Infrastructure and Water category for cities with a population over 20,000, and the Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail in the Tourism and Creative Culture category, again for cities over 20,000. We were notified of these awards prior to the award luncheon at the Arkansas Municipal League's Winter Conference, but were surprised at the event when the Arkansas Municipal League announced that the City of Hot Springs entry for our trails in the Majestic Park also earned their top prize of the year, the Don A. Zimmerman Pinnacle Award, which is chosen among all trendsetter entries for all categories. The Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail was recognized for the recent boom in new and unique additions that have created an outdoor mecca. Progress along the trail accelerated last year with Phase 1 of Velocity Park. Ground was broken on August 10th for the asphalt pump track in what will be the first of 3-phase bicycle skills park. Less than a week prior to this ceremony, we broke ground on August 4th on the 6th section of the Greenway Trail to extend the 12-foot wide ADA accessible asphalt path another mile to a total of 3.5 miles. This southern section promises to include some of the most scenic areas of the Greenway Trail, as well as 2 bridges over the creek. Majestic Park was featured in the entry for the efforts of Visit Hot Springs in offering area youth a chance to play baseball in a modern complex that sits on one of baseball's historic sites, the birthplace of Major League spring training, and where Babe Ruth first attended spring training in 1915. The city is proud to partner with Visit Hot Springs in providing this opportunity to our young athletes. Another city partnership from 2022 that promises to benefit Hot Springs for many years to come was the Our Roads Now initiative. County Judge Darrell Mahoney and I presented to the Chamber of Commerce PAC and 50 for the Future our vision to extend the Pave It Forward 5/8 sales tax, which was set to retire in 2022, for an additional 5 years. Both groups voted to support the initiative, which narrowly passed the special election on February 8th of 2022. It will provide around $50 million to the county and $30 million to the city for road, street, bridge, and sidewalk improvements. This will be on top of the city's paving program. The 2021 paving program included more than 10 miles of paving on 46 streets, with more than 5 miles of failing asphalt being milled and removed. The 2022 paving program list include more than 68 sections of city roadways that have been and are wrapping up being resurfaced. We have 1 street left, and we'll have that list also completed. Economic conditions and outlook continue to be unsteady and influenced by events at the macro level that filter down throughout the economy. Both 2020 and 2021 proved deep downturns globally that were quickly followed by strong consumer-led rebound in 2022. The economic shocks from the Russian invasion of Ukraine, supply chain problems coupled with labor shortages on top of the continued presence of COVID-19 waves all suppressed an otherwise strong economy in modest growth. Arkansas recently eclipsed the millionth case of COVID-19, contributing to nearly 13,000 deaths in the state since the pandemic struck almost 3 years ago this month. The impact of the pandemic on the economy and public health has been well publicized, but its looming presence was felt even greater in 2022. Our local economy remains strong, and based on the performance of our key indicators, we are poised to continue our ascent. Hot Springs was well positioned itself for prosperity by securing water resources that will lead to significant economic growth opportunities in the future. The recurring theme of volatile price increases and supply chain issues that have hampered the global economy also presented challenges to this multi-year project. The area's sales tax returns have continued their record-setting pace in 2022, which built upon a record-setting 2021. Through November's returns, a 7.58% increase compared to prior year is reason for continued optimism. The city's 1.5 cent sales tax supports the majority of city services, including public safety, all of which directly impact citizens' daily lives. All indicators highlighted below point to an encouraging and robust local and regional economy, from steady increases in sales tax revenues and building permits to the infrastructure development that provides building blocks for the future and sustains and enhances our quality of life. The leading indicators for the local economy have continued to post year-over-year growth. Hot Springs has solidly placed itself as a top tourism destination, and our hospitality sector has shaken off the setbacks from the pandemic to set record revenue returns. Visitors have long played an integral role as the engine that drives the Hot Springs economy. Visitor-based spending generated more than $63 million in state and local tax revenues in Greater Hot Springs area that amounted to a whopping $735 million in total visitor spending. Also, visitor volumes have remained 8 million annually, with 3 million visits being overnight stays. The area of hospitality-based jobs employed 6,400 people, with 160 million in direct wages. This figure can be deceiving, as the hospitality sector is not alone in the struggle to keep up with the demand for services, as evidenced by the many help wanted signs. The state's 2% tourism tax eclipsed 20 million for the first time in 2021. And the most recent figures through October show an 18.35% increase to 20.8 million. Locally, the 3% advertising and promotion tax posted a 14% increase over 2021 figures. There was a dip in 2020 due to the pandemic, but 2021 showed a significant increase of 30% over 2020 and 15% over 2019. The total collections for 2022 outpaced 2021 by 1.3 million, bringing in $9.1 million. These revenues helped rank Garland County as the third highest county in state for tourism dollars. The strong housing and real estate market continues its climb in the Hot Springs area, showing why it is one of the most important sectors. Residential permits in 2022 outpaced the prior year by 21%, with a total valuation of $4.3 million. The supply of homes marketed for sale has remained low, which has led to an increased reinvestment into existing homes by remodeling. The 400 residential remodel permits amounted to a valuation of $12.4 million, which is just below the prior year's 417 permit figures, although both years show significant gains historically. Looking ahead, homes sold will likely continue to slow down from the fast pace seen early in the pandemic as well. A combination of low supply, higher interest rates, and borrowing costs are likely to play a role. Approximately 37,930 residents live within the city limits, according to the 2020 census. Hot Springs is the county seat for Garland County, which has a total population of just over 100,000. Many county residents travel to Hot Springs to work, play, shop, and dine. Economic growth in the city has a positive effect on the county and vice versa, which is why it should be viewed as a regional endeavor. The unemployment rate for the state of Arkansas dipped to a low of 3.1% in March of 22 and reached a high of 3.7% in November. Hot Springs Metropolitan Statistical Area, which includes Garland County, fluctuated from a high of 4.9% in July to a low of 3.5% unemployment rate in December of this past year. As e-commerce has made manufactured goods and access to information available to the national consumer, the ability to have genuine experiences has become much more coveted, especially during the pandemic. Hot Springs offers so much in the way of outdoor amenities, a national park, a historic downtown, dining festivals, live music, and so much more that is impossible to transport. The famous English poet John Keats said it best, "Nothing ever becomes real until it is experienced." You must be here to experience all that Hot Springs has to offer. Our economic outlook is sound, and we are confident that Hot Springs will continue to be one of the best places to live, work, play, and ultimately experience. Looking ahead to 23, what better to accompany the vast array of improved city roadways than a more efficient and effective downtown parking program? The development and implementation of a paid parking management system to address the current and future parking challenges critical to the health and vibrancy of our downtown was selected by our board of directors as a primary goal for 2023. The city enlisted experts with Walker Consultants, and after 2 public meetings to present initial findings and garner input, nearly 1,000 constituents participated in the online Hot Springs Parking and Mobility Survey. The full results from the survey will be included in the implementation project, which is nearing completion and will be presented to the board in March. I would be remiss not to mention the years of work that have started to come to fruition with improvements to the Whittington Avenue. Headed up by our engineering department, staff applied time after time before finally being awarded a federal lands accessibility program grant to provide bike lanes, sidewalk repairs, crosswalks, 2 bus shelters, and ADA accessible ramps. Wide section of pavement will also be replaced with rain gardens and landscaping areas. That project has been a 7-year endeavor. Our city departments have not been immune to nationwide issue of finding qualified applicants to fill our job vacancies. I commend our human resource staff for their outreach efforts to try to improve our applicant pools, but a second board goal for this year is a job audit and employee compensation review so that we can take another step towards strengthening our recruitment efforts. Hot Springs has also not been alone, particularly among similar tourist hotspots and seeing an influx of homes being converted into vacation rentals. As affordable housing has also been a primary concern for our city and board, balancing the benefits of these rentals against the offsetting repercussions has led to much time and effort by our staff and board in developing a comprehensive short-term residential rental ordinance. As staff continues to develop practices and protocols in the management of our STR ordinance, the board has also selected adoption of an affordable housing strategy plan as a primary goal for this year. Again, experts in the field, RKG Associates, have been brought on to partner with the city in the completion of this affordable housing strategy plan. Rounding out the 5 primary board goals is to align the development code with the 2040 comprehensive plan, Forward Hot Springs, and to manage and complete projects associated with the bond requirements for the ongoing Gulf of Basin project. Development of the former Majestic Hotel site is also an ongoing long-term project. And for this item, the Hot Springs Metro Partnership has been delegated by the board to market the site and be the clearinghouse for all purchase offers and redevelopment proposals. Of course, work continues on the water supply project, the next phase of the Malvern Avenue Corridor project, the city solar energy project, and many others. We have many projects moving at once. In closing, our diamond in the rough, Hot Springs, has had another amazing year in 2022, continuing a positive and upward trend that has set our community apart from so many others in so many ways. Of course, this trend cannot be credited to one or even a handful of reasons. It has taken many facets working together to create such a whirlwind of forward momentum, which only seems to grow stronger to meet the unforeseen challenges as they arise. On behalf of all the staff at the City of Hot Springs, as well as the Hot Springs community at large, I wish to again express my appreciation to the Board of Directors and their unwavering commitment to this city. Congratulations, Mayor McCabe, on another term, and welcome Director Phyllis Beard and Director Dudley Webb III to the board to represent District 2 and District 4, respectively. It is truly an honor to work with all of you to build upon our community's strength while addressing the areas we can improve upon. There are many more accomplishments from 2022 that is included as an addendum to this report. I look forward to sharing more completed projects and accomplishments after another successful year in 2023. Thank you. Mayor?
Very good. Thank you very much. We'll continue with the consent agenda. This is of items of a routine nature and do not merit individual discussion, so we vote on them en masse. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make announcements first?
Yes, you
Upcoming,
may.
Events.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Why
I
don't
have
we do
a-
announcements?
I have a couple of announcements for Saturday, February 25th. The 2023 Polar Plunge for Special Olympics will be at the Hot Springs Health and Fitness Club, 281 Lake Hamilton Drive. And the plunge in the icy cold water is at 11 a.m. And I am supporting our team from the Hot Springs Police Department and the SWAT team, that I am also taking pledges and other contributions to, if anyone wants to match my contribution or add to it to help our Hot Springs Police Department team. The Special Olympics is a nonprofit organization, so your contributions are tax exempt, but this is more than that. It helps all people with intellectual disabilities, and they can come together under conditions where they're accepted and they're respected and they're given the opportunity to be positive citizens. And sports helps bring that about. All of our local school districts participate in this, and it's a joy to see these kids from the schools participating and how happy they are, and the adult teams, the businesses. And if you want a team, you can still register at 10 a.m. that morning and have your own team and jump in. And it's also a pleasure to see all of the police officers, even though it's cold and they jump all in, they're doing it for a good cause, and it's part of the law enforcement torch run for Special Olympics Arkansas. The second, and remember that plunge, if you want to come watch, is at 11 a.m.
This
Also-
Saturday?
Saturday, the 25th, this Saturday. Also Saturday, the giving team will be out at the parking lot there between the former Habitat Humanity Restore and the food truck court there on Malvern Avenue at the corner of Church Street and Malvern Avenue in that empty lot there. And they will have a number of resources available with Walgreens participating with care products. There'll be clothes, items, free cell phones for Medicaid and SNAP recipients. There will be hot food lunches and care packages to take with you and family food bags. So if you know anyone that could benefit from this, they will be there between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And also our very own city director from District 2, Phyllis Beard, will be there to also talk and answer questions to those coming. And they will have the NAACP participating in celebrating Black History Month. So you could still go to the plunge and then go down to the giving team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other announcements? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just might want some dry clothes. after the
Yes,
plunge.
bring dry clothes if you're going to plunge.
So the District 4 quarter safety meeting is coming up. It's going to be March 30th. And I've got to say it right this time. I want to thank you, Harmony, for pointing that out to me at the last meeting. I believe at the last meeting I said March 20th. It's actually March 30th at 5:30 p.m. at First Lutheran Church. That's at 105 Village Road. And special guest speakers will be members of the newly formed Community Development Division of the Hot Springs Police Department. For more information, or if you need to know what you can do to help with our District 4 meetings or be a part of these meetings, please give me a call. Thank you.
Director Phyllis Beard.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have the city director. I guess this will be quarterly as well. This is my first town hall, which will be Sunday, March 5th at the Garland County Library between 3 and 5 p.m. And we will discuss my role and duties. I will address any questions and concerns. We'll talk about upcoming events and city job opportunities. And also, there will be cake from Beard's Best Bakery. And
He makes great cake.
I need something for you guys to come. Wait. It's
Cake
March.
at the beginning, or-
It is Sunday, March 5th. And also we have some very important guests in the audience. We have Rodney Tollett. My father taught his father at Langston way back when, and he was a block captain, very instrumental in my campaign. So he helps me get messages to people in the Pleasant Gulfo Street area. So we like to welcome. I think this is his first time at City Hall. And welcome, Rodney. And then also William Hodgson. I have a hard time saying that. So William is a former Navy vet, and I'm trying to twist his arm to serve on the Civil Service Committee or planning. He has a lot of great ideas, so trying to get him to do more. So I think this is his first time. Is it your first time here? Okay. So,
Welcome.
thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Director Holliday.
Thank you. I wanted to let everyone know that there is an event this Sunday on the 26th. It's called the Super Soup Sunday. It's a fundraiser put on by the Park Avenue Community Association to support the splash pad that will be going at Watkins Park. You guys have heard me talk about some other events, but that's a partnership between the city and Park Avenue Community Association to have that water feature there at one of our newest city parks. So there will be soups from about a dozen restaurants here in town. And so it's a $20 ticket and you get to sample all these different soups. And it is a contest, so the winner will get a nice handmade plaque to say that they're the winner of the first Super Soup Sunday. It is, like I said, Sunday at 2 o'clock at the Clubhouse, which is 118 Arbor Street. Used to be low-key arts for people who are familiar. It's now painted black up there. There will also be live music, and you can get tickets either with the QR code in my hand, or at Red Light Roastery or Springy Dingy. So that's it.
Is that this Sunday?
The 26th. Yes.
That's this Sunday.
This Sunday.
I have a flyer if anyone needs to see.
A lot going on this weekend.
Director Trustee, did you have an announcement?
No, sir. Thank you.
I don't want to be left out. It's almost St. Patrick's Day. It's less than a month away, so get that green out. We want to all be Irish on the 20th anniversary of the St. Patrick's Parade. And we started off with porches on parade, so now we have front doors, cars, anything that you want to decorate green, start it now.
Very good. If there's no further announcements, we will now move to the consent agenda. These are of routine nature and do not merit individual discussion. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll move.
Director Garcia.
Second.
Seconded by Director Trustee. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. We have three items under new business, one resolution and two ordinances. We'll begin with Resolution R-23-34 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Resolution R-23-34, a resolution declaring a certain structure located at 418 Reserve Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. That concludes your reading. If you would, entertain a motion and second to adopt and have discussion if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Holliday, seconded by Director Dobb Smith. And a staff report will be provided by Mike Scott, Chief Building Official. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, sir. The City of Hot Springs proposes condemnation for the purpose of demolishing and clearing a vacant single-family residential structure at 418 Reserve Street, Hot Springs, Arkansas, Garland County. The Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, Volume 2, Building Code, Section 116, Unsafe Structures and Equipment. Structures or existing equipment that are hereafter become unsafe, insanitary, or deficient because of inadequate means of egress facility, inadequate lighting, ventilation, or which constitute a fire hazard, or are otherwise dangerous to human life or the public welfare, or that involve illegal, improper occupancy, or inadequate maintenance, shall be deemed unsafe condition. Unsafe structures shall be taken down and removed or made safe as the building official deems necessary and as provided for in this section. A vacant structure that is not secured against entry shall be deemed unsafe. Between 2011 and 2022, this structure has been inspected on multiple occasions and determined to pose numerous public health and safety risks. Not only is there extensive structural damage to the exterior walls, roof, and porches, but also both the owner, who has owned it since October of 2019, and the City of Hot Springs have been unable to prevent vagrants from entering the building and squatting in the structure. Due to the extent of the deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make repairs to stabilize, and have no reasonable alternative, staff recommends that the structure should be raised and removed. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Scott? Director Garcia.
If this is approved tonight, after the 30-day period after it is approved, will the process begin immediately due to the situation here for getting bids and moving forward with the process of demolition?
Yeah, what we do is if y'all approve it tonight, then we start that process. We get it the work order, and we submit it to finance. They put it out for bid. And then that way, after the 30 days, we already have our bid back. We already have the utilities disconnected if there are any. And that way, we're prepared on day 31 to take it down.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions, Director?
Yes, how much does it cost to take down the property?
It's just a guess at this point because we hadn't put it out for bid yet.
Okay.
Once y'all condemn it, we put it out for bid and we take the lowest bidder. We removed a structure on this property last year. It was addressed 110 Laurel, but it's also the same parcel. That structure cost $15,000. It was pretty expensive. It was smaller than this one, but those two buildings were almost touching and there was no room to work, so it was expensive. So we have a lien on this property right now for over $15,000.
This property that you took down, The property that you took down, was that a garage?
No, it was a smaller house
A
than this
smaller
one.
house?
Yeah.
Okay. So I spoke with the owner of the house, and he has written a letter. I'd like to share it with everyone. Dear City Board of Directors, my name is Leonardo Challenger. I am a mechanical engineer in Tucson, Arizona. I've lived in Arkansas for 10 years and thought it was a beautiful place. I would like to do my best to keep it that way. I have been purchasing abandoned homes in Hot Springs and restoring them to their full glory. I have completed these restorations at 223, 224, and 228 South Patterson, 110 and 114 Francis Street, and 115 Westover Street, to name a few. The structure at 418 Reserve is a beautiful Victorian-style home that should be preserved, and I am able to do that. I can have this home restored in 6 to 9 months. Please take a look at my previous work for further proof. I have never experienced a problem with squatters breaking into my properties. Please pardon any nuisance that this may have caused. I have called the police several times to keep out trespassers. I will have the property boarded up within a month and post warning signs of an active construction site. It is much more cost-effective to remodel this property rather than build a new structure from scratch. When these properties are restored, it increases the value of the entire neighborhood, and I would appreciate a no vote to condemn this property. And then also, he emailed me some pictures. We weren't able to get it on the screen, but this is these are pictures of houses that he has remodeled, and I would just like to share this with. There's some of them. If you could pass these around. And there may be some other extras for the audience.
Mike, when we checked on that earlier, I don't think he had any permits for this work. Are you aware of any permits that were pulled on these?
I went to all these houses today, Bill, and we looked up every one of the houses, and we looked up permits passed since he's owned them. One permit was pulled at 110 Francis for a change out of a furnace, and another permit was a reconnect permit, which means trying to get the power back on at Westover. Other than that, no permits have been pulled at any of these addresses.
Does that mean that the property should be condemned, or what does that mean if there's no permits?
That means he either did the work illegally or he didn't do the work, one of the two. Just, you know.
Mayor?
Yes, Director Garcia?
Thank you. If a permit is pulled, it's my understanding that you work with all property owners during this 30-day period, and if they show the efforts going forward to actually do the work, get the permit and do the work, that you work with them as long as they're showing improvement.
Yes, ma'am.
And that applies to this situation.
Yes, ma'am. We've always done that.
These other properties that are listed, it's my understanding, if there was no permit, that they haven't been inspected.
Correct.
So you don't know if everything is up to code or not.
Correct.
Thank you.
So
Director
basically,
Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Would the properties that are in question as to whether or not this property owner got permits for, would that be what these pictures are
No.
connecting to, or is it different?
Those are
property?
different properties.
Okay.
yes, so going forward, he just needs to get permits, or like, what should I, like, what could I tell him to, or what should he do to keep this property? He spent a lot of money acquiring the property, and he wants to restore it, and I would like to not see it torn down. So what could we do going forward?
The first thing he has to do, he has to pay the liens that he owes us. You can't pull a permit in my office if you owe the city of Hot Springs money. He owes us almost $20,000 in liens, which includes also a piece of property on Francis Street that we demoed back in July of 2020. This will be the third structure we've demoed for him if we take this structure down.
Any additional questions or comments? Thank you, Mike. Anybody in the audience sign up to speak on this item?
No, sir, no one
No.
signed up.
Discussion amongst directors? Director Webb?
Yeah, I guess this question might be more in your area, Mike, but you were mentioning that his liens total about $20,000. Is
They're
that
under
correct?
that 18,000 and some change.
How does that work if we were to uphold this condemnation? How does that work as far as paying back that 18,000? Would payment plans be acceptable? Is he going to need to clear that 18 before any
Sen-
permit could be reached?
Yeah, once we do a lien, our finance department sends a bill to them every month, you know, until, for a little while, and then after a while, if they get no response, then they spread them out further apart. He's made no effort to pay any of these liens, and that one lien goes back to 2020. There was a fire at this current structure in December, and we have his number. We texted him and said, hey, we need to get the house boarded up. Do you want to do it, or do you want us to do it? He said he would do it. A month and a half later, James Hardage went and did it himself. We gathered boards on site with a screw gun and screws, and we boarded up the house the way it is today. Because we didn't want to spend any more money. We had already spent $79 picking up trash and mowing it this past summer, so.
He tells a different story than that. He does not live here, but he definitely cares about the property. And I'm getting that he did try to board up the house and the boards were removed.
I
But
can
he's
just
not-
go by what we have in our records and
Okay.
stuff. I have it all in writing, and we have liens against the property and for us doing the work and stuff, so.
Okay, well, you've made comments about him as a homeowner that he didn't care, and he does care.
I just base it on what I see in my report. He's failed to pay the liens that he owes the city of Hot Springs and fails to take care of his property. That's what I'm basing it on. I apologize if he takes that the wrong way. But if I don't take care of my property at my own personal house, apparently I wouldn't care for it, it'd appear, to everybody else that looks on.
Okay, well, we would like to see the house not being torn down, so whatever we need, whatever I could tell him to help, you'd mentioned it brings down the property value. I think empty lots also bring down property value.
I would be ecstatic if he would pay that lien
Okay.
and then get a permit. That money is City of Hot Springs money. I live in the City of Hot Springs. He owes me that money.
Well,
So,
the key there is you have a process by which, the structure can be remedied, and that is to pay the lien and get a building permit.
Absolutely.
And show good faith effort in moving forward on the restoration of the building.
that'd be the best case scenario. Yes, sir, Mayor.
That's pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
So, any additional questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
No.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb. Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. The final two action items are ordinances. We'll begin with ordinance O-23-05, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director Trustee, second by Director Webb. I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules, read by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance O-23-05, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding and approving the procurement of 3 replacement solid waste transfer trailers from Spectre Manufacturing, Inc. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. And our staff report will be provided by Solid Waste Director, Mr. Mike Mundell. Welcome.
Welcome, or thank you. Good evening. The Solid Waste Department has 13 of these Spec Tech transfer trailers built by Spectre Manufacturing. Over the last several years, the department has been purchasing 85 cubic yard transfer trailers. This size trailer was the then industry standard. And currently, all of the Solid Waste Department transfer trailers are this size, 85 cubic yards. However, the standard size trailer has been changing to the 75 cubic yard version over the last couple of years. And this has created an issue with parts availability for the 85 cubic yard trailers. The department has been waiting on 2 ejection cylinders, which, by the way, I got a notification this afternoon. One of them is on the deck at Spectre, and we should have it tomorrow morning. I'll believe it when I see it, but we should have it tomorrow morning. So the other one, we've been waiting for the 9 months for these 2 cylinders, because they have to be manufactured by the manufacturer. They can't be just purchased as stock items off the shelf. They no longer make them. The department desires to purchase 75 cubic yard replacement transfer trailers from Spectre Manufacturing. This purchase would allow for continued standardization of the vehicles and equipment in the solid waste department. Department staff have found these trailers to be well-built, and Spectre Manufacturing provides an excellent service after the sale. The current equipment quote is for SpecTech trailer model AEC 38 96 96 75 cubic yard trailers. These trailers are used to transport solid waste from the transfer station to the landfill, and this equipment will replace units 9270, 9271, and 9538. 9270 and 71 are both 10 years old, and 9538 was one that was wrecked in late 2021.
Any questions of Mike? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Now, with the standardization, it's my understanding, and you tell me if this is correct, that this is what all our others are with this Spectre Manufacturing.
Correct, it's the same manufacturer.
And on the one that was wrecked, I forgot, was there any insurance coverage proceeds?
There was some insurance coverage proceeds, yes, ma'am.
And that's all of that was netted out and what it was in our budget for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Now, the length of the 85 cubic yards versus 75, is that a material difference in length? Is it like the trailer 5 feet shorter, 10
Yeah, it's
feet
very,
shorter?
very small difference.
Very good. Any additional questions? Thank you. Anyone sign up for this?
No, sir.
Discussion amongst directors? Director Trustee.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, what's caused the change in the industry from 85 to 75? I don't know that you mentioned that the other night, and I forgot to ask.
I believe that it's the overall length of the trailer itself. It's a little bit longer, not a lot longer, but it also, the parts that it takes to manufacture that, the pushing, that cylinder I mentioned, it's going to be a longer cylinder, so it's going to have probably additional stages to it that would allow us to push the trash all the way out the back of the trailer. So in order to try to lighten the trailer itself some, they decided to start going with the 75 cubic yard version, reducing some of the sizes and weights of those parts.
And that's not just Spectre Manufacturing, that's across the industry?
That's across the industry, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action of this, for this evening, is to consider ordinance O-23-06, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director Garcia,
Second.
seconded by Director Dobbs Smith.
Yes.
I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules, read by title only. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance O-23-06, an ordinance approving C4 zoning on approximately 0.36 acres, generally located at 1136 Airport Road, amending the future land use plan map to designate the area linear commercial corridor, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by Director Garcia. And the staff report will be provided by Kathy Selman, Planning Director. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. The applicant on this item is Mr. Adnan Dervesh, and he is representing the property owner, Airport Road Express, LLC. The request is to change the zoning on approximately 0.36 acres of a 1.46 acre parcel that is located on the corner of Weston Road and Airport Road. This is approximately 20% of the total parcel, and the other 80% is already zoned C4. The C4 portion is the part that is closest to the actual corner of Airport and Weston, and the portion that is being requested to change the zoning to C4 is a steeply sloped piece that is in the very back of this land. It's heavily forested and probably would present significant difficulty in development. The property is currently vacant. It's undeveloped, partially wooded. The wooded portion is primarily this area for which rezoning is sought. The surrounding land uses are as follows. The north is a condominium complex. East is vacant land. To the south is a commercial bank. To the west is commercial strip center and condominium complex. The applicant notes that the proposed use is a convenience store with fuel. That is, of course, non-binding, and any C4 use would be approved if this is to be changed to C4. The zoning code in Hot Springs Code states that the Planning Commission must make a specific finding as to whether the change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development or zoning, is consistent with the objectives of the zoning code, implements an approved city plan, responds to a significant change in surrounding physical, economic, land use, or other condition, fulfills a public need for land so zoned, or corrects an error in previous city action. This zoning request demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning. All of the properties fronting Airport Road from Martin Luther King Jr. Expressway to the Highway 70 West Lake Hamilton Bridge are zoned C4. Commercial developments in the vicinity include bank, shopping center, pharmacy, auto maintenance center, restaurant, and pest control. There are multifamily developments to the north and northwest of the subject property. The Planning Commission duly advertised, considered the record, and called for testimony at the January 12th, 2023 meeting. At that time, 3 people spoke against the request, citing traffic concerns along Arkansas Highway 70, Airport Road. As a consequence of that, we would expect that prior to the issuance of a building permit, should this request be approved, that a traffic study would be required from that developer. Planning Commission, by their 9-0 vote, accepted the staff report findings, and they are recommending that the Board of Directors adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map from R3 to C4 and amending the future land use plan map from residential medium high to linear commercial corridor for that 0.36 acres, generally located on the back of that split zone land at 1136 Airport Road, because the change would demonstrate compatibility with surrounding development and zoning and is consistent with the objectives of the zoning code.
Very good. Any questions of Ms. Selman?
Yes.
Director of Dobb Smith.
Would anything stop him from cutting down that hill that's there? When you said it was unbuildable, why does he need to change the zoning? Because it makes a nice buffer, the height of that property and the trees that are there, that the next thing over is homes, condos.
Right.
So could he mow that down? Just cut it down?
There would be a significant limitation on how he could do that so as not to jeopardize in any way the land that is behind this very narrow piece. The site plan that he submitted, and I believe was in your packet, pretty well demonstrates that the development of this property for the convenience store that he talks about can be accomplished without really using this land. The purpose of changing the zoning is for simplifying administration of the rules with regard to this. As it stands now, he would be required to build a fence along the back portion of this property, to buffer it from the land that he also owns, because it is a residentially zoned piece. He has not indicated at any point that he would be considering cutting that land down. So
That was my
that's
concern with it. Looking at it, I thought if he starts excavating there and taking that down, that'll cause a problem to the adjacent properties. Plus, it's not really buildable as it is, so why does he want to rezone it? So the
it's-
reason is he would have to put a fence on the commercial property to shield it from the unbuildable hill.
That's a possibility, yes. Mhm.
But there's also a possibility he would try to dig it up at some point.
There would, before he could do that, geotechnical work would need to be done to indicate if that's even feasible. And it is not a very deep piece of ground that we're talking about.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
So also, would he have to have traffic studies done before he has the,
Before a building
Plans.
permit, yes. Mhm.
thank you.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. If the zoning is changed to C4, that stays with the land.
It does.
So whomever purchased the land, it could be anything within the C4 designation.
Yes.
And you said this use was not, that was on the application is not binding.
Right. Many applicants want to share, I don't know how to say this, what they're dreaming
Potential.
about. And whether they proceed with that, sometimes they do, often they do, but often they do not. So.
So if it wasn't this, or if it was a certain size, would that, if it's a small size, does that, is there a threshold before it would go to the planning commission? Or have further requirements, or would it just go to the planning department?
If it is multiple structures, it would go to planning commission.
One structure.
This is one structure. If it was an assembly, institutional, or educational occupancy in the building code, then it will go to planning commission.
Yeah, my
If it is-
question was one small structure.
It's not likely.
So I was curious, did they ever consider CTR? If this is really what they're interested in, then it would have to go to the planning commission.
It's already zoned C4 in the front.
In the front, but
Right.
the back is where it comes up to the residential area.
Yes.
That's I just had a concern because I understand what the opposing people that live there,
Right.
what their concerns are. Were all the pictures in our packet from this property?
They should have been.
Well, there's an awful lot of trash there. Do they dump behind there?
I'm unaware of that. I will tell you that pictures that we include also include surrounding properties.
Well, this
We'll
is
take a
the-
look at that
yeah,
for sure.
look, and it even looks like a carcass.
A carcass?
property.
And those hoofs,
That's a deer hoofs.
You have any other
No, sir.
questions, Director? Other directors have a comment?
I have one other quick one. If so,
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
So
Director
you said
Dodd.
he would have to build a fence if we left this piece of property as residential, right?
He can be required to do that.
So if he changes this over to commercial, is he gonna have to put a fence at the top of the property?
He should, yes. To provide an adequate buffer
He should or
for
he
the
shall?
residential development that is on the other side of the property line, yes.
So what's the difference, I guess is my question.
There would not be a buffer between the commercial property line and the development, the residential development that's behind it.
Director Holliday?
Yeah, this is, I guess, kind of more of a point of conversation. Like you said, we do have the site plan in here, the initial draft site plan, but the only thing we're talking about is a rezone, not
Yes.
what goes there.
That's right.
And ultimately, because that is not a highly buildable lot, whether or not it gets rezoned may or may not make a difference as to whether or not something can get built here. And looking at the site plan, it looks like it's not really gonna be in that area anyway, or any other commercial building, you know. It already is C4, it could be
It is.
this and a few dozen other things regardless of what happens today.
It could.
Okay, thank you.
Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Director Holliday stole my thunder. Those line of questions are where I was going to take you. I'm sitting here looking at, this is in our packet, page 18, and it's got kind of the plan design in it. The R3 is what I'm guessing is kind of shaded in green to the north of this block retaining wall. And so if the rezoning were to stay as is and no changes were made, would it have any impact at all on this design of a convenience store? That's kind of the question that I was having too, because based on everything that I'm hearing here today, if no changes were made and that little slither that's on the north side of this property remains as R3, there isn't going to be any hindrance on this developer's ability to build on what's already C4. Would that be correct?
I understand that you're asking a question based on that plan that's in your packet.
Right, which isn't binding.
Which
I know.
isn't
Yeah.
binding, and which may or may not be what this person builds, or a subsequent owner. You know, he may not develop it at all. It's, or he may, and it may look exactly like that. So I really can't answer that question because I don't really have a binding plan in front of us
Right.
where we're saying this is what this person is going to build.
Well, there's some possible outcomes where if what's in R3 does get changed to C4, it essentially means that the buffer wall would get forced, however many feet up
Yes.
north.
Yes.
And it's highly unlikely that any disturbing of that land is going to take place for his property, but he could.
He could.
He's got that option if the rezoning were to
could.
take place. But as I'm seeing everything here that you presented us with in this packet, I'm not seeing keeping things the way they are as being any hindrance whatsoever for what this developer plans to do on C4.
I did not steal your thunder. I was coming from the exact opposite place.
Okay.
Just to be
That was
clear.
lightning.
So mine was more saying that by keeping it R3 is not really protecting anything. And I do know we often get split zone parcels coming before us because it is a challenge for the planning department. It's a challenge for property owners. I tend towards fixing split zone parcels for that very reason, so that whoever buys a piece of property can utilize the entire property to the extent and when, here, that it's primarily zoned. So, so while I think we had the same question, we definitely had different, different places we were going with it. But whenever we have, before on the planning commission or here, when a split zone parcel comes up, I think, like Director Selman was saying, it's an administrative headache when it kind of doesn't have to be. And so it would help this property owner or any future property owner really utilize the property to the best of their ability, and give them that flexibility to use the entirety of their property and not lose whatever that is, 15% or so.
And if I could add, I'm not advocating for this one way or another. It's not my property. I've never met this man. So, and we're not friends on Facebook or anything else. So, but I do want to say that given our current development code requirements, there is nothing to prevent this person, whether it is owned residential or commercial, from completely stripping that hillside of what is there. There is nothing to prevent an attempt to develop that narrow piece of land as something that would be permitted in R3. Changing the zoning could enhance the developer's ability to set the project back further, because we're not dealing with a setback line from a zoning change line that isn't really a property line. I mean, those are things that we think about. Again, we don't know for real what's going to go on here. We know what somebody thinks they would like to do, and that tosses the ball to you to make a difficult decision based upon few facts and the requirements of the code. So,
Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Was the property owner given an opportunity to speak, or is he or she here to talk on it? Can he or she speak on this matter? Or
the property owner is certainly welcome to speak and was made aware of this hearing.
Is the property owner in attendance?
Yeah, I'd like to speak if I can.
Yeah, please come forward and state your name and address.
I'm
please.
Mark Redder, and I'm with Holloway Engineering, and I'm representing the property owner, and he is in attendance also. A few things that I would like to say about this is that it's an odd case to have a property that's zoned split. He wasn't even aware of it. He thought that his property was all zoned C4. And so it does, unfortunately, it does require a lot of work on that hillside to even get it to work because it's so steep. And of course, it would have a property fence, and it would also be replanted. The hillside would also be replanted. And it would be done in a tasteful way, and pines will grow on about everything, and probably have an Iliagnus hedge at the top by the fence, so as to buffer it from the residential property to the north. But the reason is that, as has been stated before, this property is incredibly hard to develop because of the slope. We're going to have a tall retaining wall, and it's going to require some grading behind the retaining wall. And so that's the biggest reason for our request to change the zoning. And it buttons things up. This is, I've never seen it, a property that's been split like this. And it's got to be a nightmare to even try and sell it in the future if he elected to do that. But his intentions, we've got one going right now at Higdon Ferry and Temperance Hill. So, and that was a difficult property. But his intention is to build this. It represents revenue to the city, convenience to the commuters, and We've proposed a couple lease areas on the end caps. I don't know if they'll turn into coffee shop or dry cleaner or who knows. But, you know, and of course, traffic is an entirely different animal. You know, but honestly, you love traffic. I mean, you hate it and you love it because traffic means revenue, traffic means people coming to your city, et cetera. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You don't want to discourage developers. You don't want to necessarily discount their claims of wanting to develop this property because the people across the street got there first, you know. So proper steps will be taken to try to address the traffic issue if need be. A study will provide that. But that's kind of all I got to say about it.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for appearing before us this evening. Had y'all considered requesting the CTR? Because that would, the question before us tonight is only a zoning change to all of it to be C4. And I understand your perspective, but the C4 stays with that land until there would be another, if there was ever another zoning change to look at. So residents in the area have some concerns of the unknown. Nothing you said, although it sounds great, is binding. Nothing of the design of potential project there is binding. And a CTR would require, you know, something specific when you got to that point if you decided to do more development, and it brings reassurance that that will be reviewed and fit to that property in the area when it goes to the Planning Commission for approval.
Exactly. Well, and one of the obvious things is that it will have to comply with all of your rules and regs of the city, county, state, and everything. That's the process. If the property is zoned correctly, it just goes for building permit and it gets reviewed by multiple agencies. So I don't see that as being something that should, you know, require us to do anything different. It's that way across all zonings across the city. You have to comply with the rules.
Yes, but the C4 rules are different than C3.
Well, of course.
And CTR would give a pathway for building the project as well as C4, but it takes away some of the residents' fear of the unknown, because nothing else is binding but the zone change.
Well, I understand, but
I'm
there
just
again-
sharing some of the information.
Yeah. Well, and there again, you know, if a piece of property is zoned correctly, it goes through the process. And it really, just because it's in one area or one other, or where there's a community concern, really doesn't matter. I mean, realistically, it doesn't. I mean, just because, you know, up the street we've got, you know, a couple other convenience stores, et cetera, and they were zoned and built. So, you know, I don't know why this one should be any different.
The area that's being rezoned and the location of the retaining wall, how much is that retaining wall pushed fairly deep into that .36?
It is. It'll be a 15-foot tall retaining wall.
Yeah, I could see that the elevation is 450 in the area of retaining wall, and, you know, in the 337, or even at the front, it's a lot less than that. So
Well-
is your goal to bring the front up or bring everything down to around 431?
Well, it's a combination of both. Like I say, it's a difficult project. It's like Chinese calculus trying to figure it out. We do a combination of both. And, you know, on properties like this, I kind of hate it because if they remain undeveloped, they're a nuisance. They're a nightmare. People dump there, people hang out there, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, it's our goal to put something viable there that's well taken care of, et cetera.
The access points to the property there's 2 access points currently to the property. Are those going to be the access points in this development?
That's correct.
Okay.
And the airport road will have to conform to the highway department regulations. And Weston Road is fairly steep over there, so it's going to be a challenge to get that entrance in. But we think it works.
But the current access point on Weston Road isn't all that far from Airport Road.
That's correct. We're actually moving it a little bit farther up the hill.
How much farther you think?
I don't remember exactly how far. It was in the range of 50, 75 feet or something like that.
The highway department had looked at that intersection in light of the entire intersection at Airport Road and Martin Luther King there, and they had a design that made no left-hand turns out of Weston Road, and you went right up right short of the bridge, and then they had a little cut-through design to where you cut across 2 lanes of traffic and were really off the highway and then merged back in. Good, bad, or indifferent, I live up in that Weston Road area, and I make a decision as to which way to go, whether I go out Airport Road and make a left or go to Albert Pike and make a right based upon time of day.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. We will ask for a right in and right out onto Airport Road because of the knowledge of how busy that is at certain times of day. Also, you know, it would be our recommendation that you don't turn left off of Weston. It's during certain times of day. It's just very busy and very dangerous. So, you know, that is what we'll submit with this plan, is that it's a right in and right out to Airport. Now, people may or may not, you know, conform to that request, you know, but all we can do is put signage up. Because in reality, at certain times of day, you can pull right out and make a left. But rush hour, no, forget it.
Now, and the traffic study is real important. I think that you've got a project here that's going to add a tremendous amount of traffic. You've got 2 additional units that are available for lease. According to the plan here that I'm looking at, you have 3 drive-up windows. And so it looks to me like a very, very busy place with a road system that isn't really designed to accommodate that.
And there again, that's the challenge we get into with almost every development, you know, which it's more of a highway department concern and a residential concern to bring that to the highway department. When I lived in Ohio, we got the speed limit changed in front of my house on a state highway because it was dangerous. And so, you know, people can make a difference, and you know, we can all try to address this situation because the problem exists now. And, you know, I'm sure they're looking at it. I'm sure they're trying to address it. But, you know, just like I said before, just because everybody else got there first doesn't mean we should penalize this guy.
Well, but we're also very concerned with public safety.
Oh, yeah, I understand.
And unfortunately, I guess we'll have to have a number of accidents there before anything gets done.
I know.
And right now, while it's a challenge, people are managing it, and but because anybody who lives up there, they know how to access Airport Road to the left going into town, and the only thing you have in your favor is a little longer extended left-hand turn light
Right.
off of Airport Road on MLK.
Right.
And it gives you a little bit of time to not have traffic coming at you going out of town, but you still got tons of traffic pouring into town that you got to
I get
navigate.
that. But respectfully, this kind of isn't the forum to deal with the traffic problem at this request level. We're just looking to get the property all zoned to one zoning. The reality is that one little strip of residential up there on the side of the hill will never get built for residential. It just doesn't, it will not happen.
Do you have any other questions for the engineer? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I won't keep you too many more minutes. I do appreciate you getting up and speaking on behalf of this development. I guess the couple of questions that I have is, if no changes are made to the rezoning and that little sliver of 0.36 acres remains as R3, how much of an inconvenience to what you're trying to do with this development will that serve you?
Well, this was recommended to us by the planning director, and I don't know all of the reasons why, but he's aware of what we are proposing to do. And so I don't know, but I think it could impact the slope. It could impact the placement of the wall. I just don't know. And we don't really have a good feel of exactly where that line is. It's kind of just a fat line on a piece of paper. From what I understood, and there again, the properties to the west, to the east of this, have already had this request done on their properties. Because the way it was explained to me was, at the time that this C4 tract was created, it was a certain distance from the airport road. And several of the properties got split. And then, since then, several of them have been rezoned to have the same zoning.
I'm looking for a way to word this question. If the 0.36 were C4, you may have shared a little bit of this with us, but what are your intentions to do with that little bit? Is it just in case you have to go a little bit on that side to add for a retaining wall, or what do you envision happening with this little portion that's R3 right now?
It's quite complicated. It's going to depend on, we've had a soil study done, but it's going to depend on the underlying shale and the slope of the shale. It could be that we can come straight down without a retaining wall even. But that's up to the soil scientist, what the grounds is capable of.
Are there any additional questions of the engineer? Thank you.
And like I say, the owner is here if you had any questions for him.
Sir, is there anything that you'd like to add?
It's just like when we bought the property.
If you want to come up to the microphone, because we do also stream live and they can't hear from back there.
Thank you, Mayor.
Could I have your name and address, please?
My name is Adnan Dervish, and we bought quite a few properties in Little Rock and Hot Springs and stuff like that, but usually we get the zoning check before we buy it, but this property seems interested, and the seller was kind of rushed too, but when we looked at it, there was C4, And when we bought it, then we know that it was a split property. So it's just like a waste of our land when we bought a full price for that 1.46 acres. So when we involved Mark and then we knew that there was a split property, so we're just kind of confused that, hey, R3 right behind C4, it was kind of confusing, so we didn't know what to do.
Okay. Any questions of this gentleman? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Kathy, can you come back up, please? Well, the process here tonight is a zoning issue. Does the process, let's assume, let's just say the vote was to approve. Does anything come back to the board, or what is the next steps, and is there any opportunity for the city board to review this project again in its final state, or is it compliant with C4, so it just goes forward with no additional review?
It appears to comply with, because it is a single structure, not assembly, institution, or education occupancy. It's not more or 3 or more stories in height. And should that remain true, all of it, then it would go directly to building permit. Now, I really feel like I need to emphasize this. Coming in for a building permit to enclose your carport is done at the counter. I mean, you come in, you tell us what you want to do, we give you a permit. You pay $15 or whatever. When someone comes in with a development plan such as this, there is the same level of scrutiny at the staff level that there would be if it had to go to planning commission. And that takes a while. It isn't, he's not going to come in and just say, C-store, and we say, thank you very much, here's your permit. It doesn't work that way. All of the questions that you are asking tonight will be asked. And the answers have to be correct. This project will have to comply with the requirements of the zoning code, but also engineering, traffic, streets, utilities, all of those things. And again, with the same level of scrutiny as if this had to go to planning commission. So the step that isn't there is that it doesn't get voted on. But if it is consistent with what is allowed in the zone district, once that very complete review has happened and all of the things that may not have complied initially are made compliant, then the building permit can be issued.
Well, let's talk about the traffic study. What are we looking at there?
We would be looking at the vehicle trips that would be associated with this use. A traffic study typically will look at what hours of the day those trips will occur, steps that need to be taken to mitigate that additional traffic, whether it be in the manner that the traffic enters and exits the property. This property has 2 frontages, Weston Road and Airport Road. Both of those frontages will be looked at and decisions made about what needs to be done. And recommendations will come from the traffic engineer performing the study as to what steps need to be made to make this a safe development for the rest of Hot Springs.
The traffic engineer is someone that the developer hires and they submit a report?
They submit a report. It is then reviewed by Public Works and Engineering.
Does the State Highway Department review that report?
The State Highway Department will see that report.
I mean, we had a project, or not we, a project developed, as you know, Bubba Brews.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that everybody passed on that with and then all of a sudden it was a kind of realize that, hey, you know, you're not gonna be making left-hand turns there, you're gonna be making right, and so that caused problems down the way, because, you know, people would make a U-turn in the first strip mall they could get to, and then they shot back across the bridge. So much of this is hindsight, and especially I think with the traffic, and I don't know what the answer is. The gentleman made a comment about, you know, only right-hand turns. Well, that's not going to happen coming off of Weston Road. And certainly the people in no left-hand turns, and of course, I don't know if he was referencing people coming across the bridge from the county not being able to turn in left. That would kind of be curtail your business opportunities there. And I don't see the highway department putting signage in there. So this is the traffic. I think we can be real dismissive of it. We can do a study and say we got a study in the file, and then we just wait and see what happens.
Well, a study in the file would be pointless. It has to be read, understood, and acted upon. And that is what happens with a traffic study. You referenced Bubba Bruce. I think we learned from Bubba Bruce. And unfortunately, there is no way to prevent people from doing stupid things. And you mentioned some things that sounded pretty stupid to me regarding traffic behavior around Bubba Bruce. So I think, too, that we are nearing a point where traffic at that intersection may eventually meet the warrants for a traffic signal. And that's, you know, obviously it's not there now, but it's something that is likely to happen in the near future.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen.
We do not.
Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I too had a concern regarding the traffic, because it is heavy traffic, but before we take action that could increase the traffic before something is being addressed at that location on Weston Road, the engineer said he was sure that the Arkansas DOT was looking at this. Has there been conversations that y'all have had, or you have any record that's been submitted regarding their conversations with DOT and what they are looking to do?
I am unaware of a formal application to implement this site plan. I'm therefore unaware of any contact that may have occurred with RDOT.
With the amount of trash in this area, was your department take these pictures out there?
I believe so, yes.
Was all of this reported and the owner aware of this significant trash and dead carcasses out there?
I wish I could answer that. I will know tomorrow morning.
So it should have been, or I would think we would report that and get that cleaned up too. I don't know where it is coming from in that area, but if I was buying that, I'd want to know about that situation as well. I've seen developments in my district, particularly where the slope was taken down and the hills and mountains were leveled, and the streets going to the residential area were blocked for hours when this was taking place and under construction, that the neighborhoods in that area are still complaining about. Even across the street from me, which I fully support the development there, but they've had to take down to get the proper slope. So we've seen just recently how that is being done. So without anything binding here, with the change, all our question is the change in zoning. And that's why I always wonder why the CTR is never recommended in these situations. Was that ever even considered by you? He said you recommended C4.
I had no discussion with him prior to Planning Commission. You may or may not know, had COVID. I was
I'm so
out for a
sorry.
couple of weeks, and that followed a 3-week expedition through bronchitis, which was a splendid way to spend the holidays. So
I'm so
sorry,
sorry.
I don't have the information that
Okay.
I would like to have to answer your
Okay.
question.
But I may have misunderstood. I thought he said that you as planning director recommended C4. So I'm sorry.
I was talking to Rick Stoddard, I'm sorry. His planning
Oh,
staff.
Rick Stoddard recommended it?
Yes, and he's the one that recommended this to us.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Ms. Selman? Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we have anybody sign up who want to speak on this?
We did not have
Anybody in the
anybody sign up.
audience that wanted to speak on this? Discussion amongst directors? You know, one of my challenges is we talk about doing a traffic study, but we as a board won't receive that traffic study, you know, as part of our decision-making process. And I understand that this is a zoning and not a use, and as was relayed to me earlier today, that, you know, perhaps we have more information in the packet than what we needed for this decision. You know, we actually have a layout and how all this is going to work. And while there's continued emphasis that this is just one structure, but there's 3 different units within the structure, so there's more than one business that's going to be drawing, you know, patrons to this property or potential customers to this property. So, you know, I think that the parking study the traffic study is really important. And but I don't see us in the way that as the steps have been outlined as by Director Selman, how it's going to unfold, you know, gives us an opportunity at another date to look at this. So,
If I may,
yes, Director Holliday.
with all due respect, what is on that piece in our packet has nothing to do with the decision for the zoning of the parcel.
I think I said that.
Well,
Yes.
everyone seems to be going back to what it might be used for, and really this is just whether or not we want to keep a parcel split zoned or one zone, because it's already C4, there's going to be traffic issues. You know, and perhaps that additional traffic is what would have our, you know, like Kathy said, we'll have RDOT give you a light, because I have made that turn before. We all take our lives into our hands making that turn. But, you know, all of these other bits and pieces, while they impact later on, that is not what is before us. It is whether or not we keep this split zoned or have a single zone.
Any other comments from directors?
Mayor, I have been asked by Director Beard if I would kind of just summarize what's being asked here, rather than rereading the title. Directors, this is a request to change zoning from R3, which is a residential zone, to C4, which is a commercial zone, for property that has been split. Approximately 20% of the property to the north and northwest is zoned residential. This would change so that all of the property in that parcel would be C4, a commercial use.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Director Dobbs Smith,
No.
Webb,
No.
Garcia,
No.
Trusty,
Yes.
Holliday,
Aye.
Beard,
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
No. Ordinance fails. This completes the action items for this evening. We have board comments or items for discussion.
Mayor, I've got something.
Pardon?
I've got something.
Yeah.
If I could, I was remiss earlier. I wanted to thank Lance Spicer and Aaron Street for putting together the State of the City report. It will be online. Lance did a stellar job in authoring most of the report, and Aaron as well with what he did with the addendums. So I want to thank those two for their work on the State of the City report. And also, Director Garcia was appointed to the National League of Cities Small Cities Council. A very big honor to be on that. Also was added to the National League of Cities Women in Government. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Very nice. Director Garcia, you had your hand up, right?
Yes, I wanted to remind you of the Polar Plunge, and I will be taking contributions and pledges immediately following the meeting if anyone would like to support our Hot Springs Police team. Thank you.
I'm donating my son. How about that?
Okay.
If you collect 100, I'll plunge.
I may give you some money if you do the plunge yourself.
There you go.
You get the price right.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take this time and give thanks to City Manager Bill Burrow and Deputy City Manager Denny McFate and the Hot Springs Street Department again this week for their work at the intersection of Village and Lakeshore Drive. There were 3 massive pine trees that were taken down this past week at this intersection to improve driver visibility. I appreciate all of you taking on this task to provide better traffic safety for our citizens. I've gotten quite a few phone calls from citizens expressing their thanks as well. And the vision in that intersection right there, I think will prevent many accidents from happening and improve visibility. So just thank you all for jumping right on that.
So traffic safety is important?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Good.
Traffic safety is important. And last piece, I am an advocate for keeping soccer at Kimry Park. Anybody, any resident of Hot Springs who wants to know what they can do to help me keep soccer at Kimry Park, please give me a call. Thank you.
Any other comments, directors? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Director Garcia, seconded by Director Trustee. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Get you to look at